Today, we will learn to use specific processes in your genealogy life so we can work smarter, not harder. I'm your trainer, Lori Coffey. I have spent a career training people on processes to improve their business work results. If you're a longtime genealogist, you likely already know this next one. So we'll look briefly at the four-step Genealogical Proof Standard. The same or similar names at the same time in about the same town does not prove they are related, even with famous ancestors like Richard Warren, who was on the Mayflower. After you do a reasonably exhaustive search, build a case with evidence, then eliminate the probabilities that cannot be proved. Source your research you discover. We'll discover sourcing research later. And then draw conclusions. Like my ancestor, Robert Warren, is not related to Richard Warren. Add him to my research to-do list. Before we move to places to solve a research problem, let's look at another computer development process we can steal ideas from: Agile Methodology. Agile was developed in the 1980s to make the software development process more responsive and easier to tweak to match the changing needs of the client. Staying agile in any situation is always a good idea in today's ever-changing world. Agile suggests we break projects into small, achievable tasks to keep it simple, sweetheart. We'll talk more about managing tasks in time management. If you want to be super technical about a process, you can create a process flowchart for it, but we're not doing that today. Technically not a process, Kay Kirkham in the classic Professional Techniques and Tactics in American Genealogical Research lists 6 places to solve a research problem. We'll go through them one by one. Start at home for records of proof that you or they were born. Look for proof documents in your possession, even if they're hard to put your finger on. I have a cousin whose husband was adopted, and they wanted my help trying to find his records. And I said, okay, first we need to find a birth certificate. Let's see how we can do that. And she said, oh, we have that. I said, you do? And she goes, yeah. I said, well, what does it have on it? She goes, I don't know. We've never looked at it. And it had everything they needed on it. So always start at home. Go to church for evidence. You or their church may have a baptismal record that can help prove the birth. A marriage record is often in a church or pastor's record books, and many are being digitized all the time. And a historic funeral card often gives multiple facts, including birth, marriage, and relatives. Go local for records. Remember, look through the house first. If you have to send away for a copy to buy, start looking for them in local town records, then county, then state for those records. That can be complex since every state is different, and those change based on the time frame. You do have an easier option if you don't mind paying more for the convenience. Use VitalCheck. Consult every census. For example, only the 1900 census lists the birth month and year. Others are estimates. Build a chain of circumstantial proof with multiple sources. Review every military record to corroborate evidence. Dig up land records and learn the difference between grant, a patent, an indenture, a deed, and those most sought after military bounty land warrant like this one for service in the French and Indian War. We just reviewed 6 places to solve a research problem, but we actually have one more, don't we? DNA. Let's look at a basic 4-step process using autosomal DNA to find more research solutions. Just like with places to solve a research problem, we'll look at each step. To start the process, test yourself and your oldest nearest relative in your tree if possible. That creates a baseline to search from. While waiting for your test results, step 2 is to chart greats up to 64, or all 64 of your 4th great-grandparents, plus all your ancestors up to them. These are the people we share the most DNA with. While we can see 2 gaps in our tree here for Nora Miller, if you want to fill them, chart them where you can see the holes to plan specific research. Now there's 14 gaps. It was work, finding the women always is, but filling in those gaps helped me to find where my Scottish DNA came from. Find matches in common when you want to recognize by which side of the family they're on. These are people you probably don't know and have not been assigned to your mother or father's side. So first we need to figure out what side they belong to. In Ancestry DNA, I open all matches filtered by unassigned. These are matches I don't know. In a cousin with a tree, I click Common Ancestor, and I recognize that this is my father's side, one hurdle down. What about ones with unlinked trees and no common ancestor listed? Since the tree is no help, I click Shared Matches. And I can see, based on who Stacy also shares DNA with, this cousin is also on my father's side. Our last DNA basic research solution is to use groups. That way you can label and identify family groups by color. A good tip is to create 16 groups, one for each third great-grandparent surname pair. Then in all matches, I can filter by groups. Choose the family surname group to see all DNA matches for that family group at the same time.